Hello, everyone. Welcome to GE2 Purposive Communication. And in this video, we will talk about essential terms that are relevant to the study of delivering a speech operationally defined to establish a common frame of reference as to how the text work in your chosen field or career. So if we could remember in our previous video, we've learned about public speaking and delivering a speech. And we've also learned about writing, the 10 tips on how to write your speech. Now, this time, we will going to talk about the second phase of, or the second stage of public speaking, and that is the chapter 8, public speaking, and we will talk about preparatory stage. So for the information of everyone, preparatory stage is the second phase in public speaking. So a substantial part of your self-confidence as a speaker will come from kind of preparation that you put in. According to Dr. C.E. Matthews, he opined that 75% of the victory that you will put in your speech depends on your preparation. So that's actually the reason why we need to encounter or we need to study the preparatory stage before jumping into the delivery stage, because preparation is very important. As being mentioned, 75%. So that number really gives us the knowledge that preparation or preparatory stage is really important in delivering a speech. So if you have the choice, don't ever venture into accepting a speaking engagement if you are not prepared. So always remember this, that in delivering a speech, you need to be prepared. If you're not, then do not do any speaking engagement. That's very important. Now, in this video, we will learn about the different pointers in preparatory stage. So the first pointer is learn from successful speakers. So this is very familiar, and I'm pretty sure that you have knowledge about it. So study how impressive speakers deliver speeches. So that's very important on how to learn successful speakers. You need to study them. Their key message, their speaking style, technique they use for attention, and the forcefulness by which they present their ideas. This is very important that everyone should know in terms of preparatory stage. So we need to study the speakers, famous speakers, or the speakers that you've known that are very good in public speaking. You have to consider what are the things that the person is doing to deliver a speech perfectly, so that you have a mirror, so that in time that you are going to deliver your speech, you can do it effectively on your own. The second tip would be, or the second pointer would be, determine your goal. That's also one point that we need to consider if we are doing public speaking. You have to ask yourself, what is your goal? Okay? So, as being mentioned in the PowerPoint presentation, ask yourself the following questions. First, the rationale for your presentation. Rationale means the overall background about your presentation. What would be your presentation all about? Who are the listeners for your presentation? And you have to make sure, be truthful to yourself. So, be truthful means, since you are trying to ask yourself about everything before jumping into the delivery speech, you need to ask yourself, what is the purpose of this? Why we need, or why I need to do this? Who are my listeners? How am I going to deliver my speech? What would be the style? What are the things that I need to consider in terms of voice, in terms of the visual aids that I am going to use? Secondly, what does your audience want? So that's also one important thing. Because if your audience wants an interactive way of speaking, then you have to make your speech an interactive one. But if your listeners or if your audience really wanted just to listen and watch you speaking, then you have to do it as well. So you have to it is very important that what your audience needs are always important to consider. You must make your speech informative, interesting, and even a little surprising. That's also very important in terms of the preparatory of your speech. And the third one would be prepare your speech in advance. Yes, this is very common, even if in your normal days, you cannot go outside your house if you're not prepared. Like for example, you have a trip in Hong Kong or whatever places you have. Basically, before the day of your flight, what you're going to do, you are going to prepare all the things that you need. Basically, your passport, your itinerary, your luggage, everything that is needed, you need to prepare. Same in delivering a speech or in public speaking. You need to prepare your speech in advance because human as we are, we tend to prepare things in late time. So if your speech will be tomorrow, then you will just prepare your speech today. So it seems like the time constraints. There is time constraints. So always remember that you need to rehearse your speech and your visual aids the day before. So if it's possible, not only the day before, it should be a couple of days before your speech so that you could change if there's any changes needed. You need to do some improvements if there's needed. So you need to prepare your speech in advance. The fourth one will be organize your materials. Now, in terms of this pointer, in any cases that your speech needs materials, then you need to organize it well. Example, if you are doing your public speaking and you are providing pamphlets or fact sheets or any papers, then you have to organize it. Prior to your speech, you need to distribute it. Or maybe if you need materials like PowerPoint presentation, you need to prepare your laptop, your PowerPoint presentation itself, the projector, anything that you needed so that it will not waste your time and it will not waste the time of everybody. So again, remember, don't waste everyone's time by giving them an entire laboratory report or by dropping the names of all the authors you consulted. So you need to organize your materials, everything. So example here is making your PowerPoint presentation. I am pretty sure you already have the knowledge on how to create a PowerPoint, an impressive effective PowerPoint presentation. So in creating materials, it should not be too lengthy of information. Just a short information that would give the audience the knowledge on what you are trying to say. And the fifth one would be organize your speech into manageable units. This means that you need to make sure that your audience would leave the hall remembering at least 3 important pointers from your talk. This is very important. It's you need to give an impressive feedback to your audience. That means that the audience will not just leave the hall or to the place without remembering nothing or without remembering anything. So you need to make it sure that your audience will be satisfied and learned a lot from your speech. And the next one would be practice your speech until you became confident. Yes, this is very important. And I am pretty sure majority of people who is listening right now or who are watching right now, one thing that you have in mind or that makes you uncomfortable in speaking, especially in public because you don't have any confidence at all. And if you don't have any confidence, that's the time that stage fright will enter. So, as being mentioned, we need to do practice. So, according to the statement, um, practice makes perfect. But this time, we will not just use it as practice makes perfect. It should be constant, correct practice. Because if you constantly practice a correct routine, then you can have a perfect speech. So this time, as being mentioned, rehearse the presentation of your materials, such as PowerPoint presentation, diagrams, or charts. So you have to remember, practice makes perfect, as being mentioned, but remember this more, correct practice makes perfect. That's also important. And the next one, study the venue of your presentation. This is also one of the important things that we need to consider. We need to study the venue of your presentation. What are you going to do? You need to look out for switches of the lights, how to adjust the projector screen, and how to focus on your LCD or LED projector or whatever materials that you have. You need to prepare and study everything. So you will not just practice your speech, but if you have materials that you are going to use in your presentation, then you have to be familiar and you have to study also this. And the next one would be, and probably the last one, anticipate possible adverse situation. What do you mean by this? Adverse situation. This means that you need to expect technical difficulties or technical problems or any unnecessary situations. Example, your PowerPoint is not working, the projector is not working, the microphone is not working. So you need to have a simple backup. That's the reason why, if we will go back to the previous pointer, we need to study the venue of the presentation. And as being mentioned, you have to practice, you have to organize, you need to organize your materials, you need to prepare your speech in advance, you have to determine your goals, and you have to learn from successful speakers. So these are the things, preparatory stage pointers that we need to consider for us to be able to have that so-called effective public speaking. Now, speaking of public speaking and materials that you are going to need, there is preparation of audiovisual aids or the materials that you need. So visual aids could be the illustrations, pictures, charts, and film clips, or in short, if you have PowerPoint presentation, that is considered as audiovisual aids. Why there's an audio visual aids? Audio means sounds. So usually people who wants to have an energetic session or energetic type of speech, then they will engage their audience into exercises or icebreaker before starting the speech. So they're usually doing that. And the visual aid, these are the things that will help your presentation more effective and more understandable. So you have to make sure that your visual aids are stimulating, colorful, and appealing. So you need to consider that your visual aid will really catch the attention of your audience. And you also need to make sure that your presentation will be colorful, not just not the too much, but a simple one that would catch the attention and make it sure that it should be appealing. It will really give a good impression to your audience. So that's key point on how to have audiovisual aid. So we are done with the second phase of our lesson. And again, the second phase is the preparatory stage. And just this time, we've learned 8 preparatory pointers.